These were the opening moves of this epic game between Pragg with the white pieces, playing this Italian or Gucci Reza piano as it's also known after the king of fashion Ali Reza, and his opponent, the exciting tactical Daniil Dubov. Sometimes a game just catches your eye. The attack, the sacrifices, Tal-like brilliance. This is from the World Rapid and Blitz 2023. We're rewinding to an oldie but a goldie. Love this game. Let's dive right in. Pragg now goes d3 after that knight f6, and Daniil puts the bishop on the less aggressive square. They're over the board opposite each other. It's in Samarkand. Now we see castles from both players. Quick king safety fist bump, exploded out, great etiquette, and now the Wookiee one. It's Chewbacca's favourite move. d6 and c3 looks to expand, but watch this for a fight back. It's knight a5. Now normally the most elite chess players say this about a knight on the edge of the board.
Der Springer an dem Rimmer ist ein absolut Wiener Schnitzel.
But here it's justified. Even Magnus Schwarzenegger has to understand that the bishop can save itself, but this is the follow-up. Kick it back, raw expansion, and after Pragg whispers, stack my bishop, now we see Daniil fully expand with the pawns. No clue what we call that structure, but we now see why the knight sidelined. Black is fully fighting back in the centre. Here comes this standard pony manoeuvre. Dad's confused. What are you doing back here? Get back out into the world, make something of yourself. And now this always looks very weird when you're new to chess. It's bishop f8. Now it's tucking back to open the eyes of the rook. This pawn needs some defense. Pawn h3 does a similar job to this one, gives the king some Lufthansa, takes control of a key square, and now the seahorse is spawned. Sometimes you see the queen sitting on c7, but you're overprotecting this one. Maybe this is on the way soon, but first, bang. Pragg's first to the punch there in the centre, gaining the space. We see CD, CD, and now, not forced, but another capture. So white now has the better pawn structure. This is an isolated backwards pawn. It's going to be targeted, but in compensation, we get this knight rotation. You could have actually chopped the pieces off the board, but this keeps the complexity, the tension, and look at the counterplay. Bishop f4, x-rays the backwards pawn, but bishop b7. So although white stands marginally better, black's got play for the pawn structure, and if you ever go f3, well, you weaken dark squares. Let's see how the game develops, because white's actually attacking first. Looming over the ramparts here, we see rook c8, very natural, and now bishop b3. It bounces back onto that pertinent diagonal. a5 is excellent, fighting against that, and you can't allow a4. So Pragg pushes it himself. Daniil plays this one. b4, you can say crazy Uncle Kramnik. And after the queen centralizes, love it. An absolute white widow spider there. The best way for black to play is with this rotation, apparently. Makes a lot of sense, using the outpost squares. But this rook does a mini lift. Now we see rook a d1, and we almost get ourselves a rook tangle. Not quite, no exploding board. Now this whole setup looking super weird, but Daniil wants to push d5 for the high five, liberate the backwards pawn. Of course, you have to be careful of this guy first. Maybe knight g6 comes, so this is the battleground. King h1 is now played. King h7. Look what that supports. X-ray defense, or immediate defense, sorry, of the pawn. X-ray defended by the bishop. f3 now supports the center, and g6. We see why the king sits there rather. You can't burst through, so the knight has to back up unceremoniously. This one hits the chocolate slide, and it's so uncomfortable for Her Majesty that she slides right back like a dump truck, backing up. Bishop a6, and it threatens now to land this octopus that Stocktopus can be proud of here. Beautiful outpost square, and you should play queen c2. That's actually not an outpost, sorry. It's not supported by a pawn, but an amazing juicy one nonetheless. This is best to defend the square like that with the rook and so on, but Pragg, low on time, under 10 seconds now, he gives up his bishop pair. It's really not the best. You can actually capture with the pawn. This knight does double defend the rook, but instead we see rook takes, much more aggressive move, looking to switch and keeping the eyes of the bishop open. Best response for white, spawn this seahorse here. Bit uncomfortable. You look at the rook, this pawn even in some lines. You know, things are defended now, but who knows in future. And if you ever take, well, you're giving up a great piece. But not played. We get knight d5, and the problem with this is simply knight takes. And after bishop takes, you've opened the eyes of the second sniper. They're both streaming across the board here. Black now has an initiative. The knight kicked backwards here. Rook c7, not the most accurate, but still a good move. Let's crack on with the game. Knight d4 is played, and after rook g5, really bringing the army to the party. f4, a great move to kick that rook into here. Pragg now goes wrong in the defense of his king under the pressure here. What should he play? Best move. Very well done if you saw knight b5. No clue how you got to that one. This is best because it blunts the bishop, and okay, you hold the king position as it is. This stuff looks scary, but the queen can always slide to the defense. But this wasn't played. Low on time, we saw knight f3. What's the problem with this move? Can you find a knockout blow here? So well done if you had the idea of exchange sacrificing on f3. It gets the double brilliancy. It's the first of two epic moves. Check is now played. King g1, of course you could block, but then of course takes here. So let's crack on. And you can check with the queen. Let's quickly show this. We get a block, and then you could take here, still with a raging attack. There's even this really cool move. If the rook takes, you drop this rook. Attack rages on, this is best, and so on and so forth here. Still can't take, or queen h4 and you win the rook. But this wasn't played. There's an even stronger move, a knockout, a -10 move. Can you find it? So it's that recurring theme, bishop d4 check. Absolutely beautiful. Queen takes. Now what is the point? Did you see this far? Well, now when you check, the queen can't intercept. You can't step this way with the king. So this one is forced. And now there's a decisive invasion. Can you put the icing on the cake? Rook c2. And we saw resignation. Because the mate here is unavoidable. And if you try rook d2, you drop the rook here. You can't do rook e2. You simply take here. So because this defensive resource doesn't exist, Pragg had nothing to do but proffer his hand, resign the game. Lovely result from Daniel Dubov. How did he finish in the tournament? Let's have a quick look. I never prepared it, sorry. Scroll up, scroll up. Results, let me remind myself. Second. I knew he did very, very well. Just got pipped to the finish line by Magnus Carlsen. Hope you enjoyed, and if you want to see an incredible game by Magnus from this very tournament, have a look at the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon. Cheers.